Although the perceived value of equity awards by employees has grown over the last 10 years, it declined in 2022, which is probably not surprising to many of you, given the volatility we've seen in the markets. So, what can employers do to reverse this trend? We're going to talk about that right now here on UBS Trending. And thank you so much for joining us for another episode of UBS Trending, everyone. I'm Anthony Pastore. My guest today is the head of the Equity Plan Services business at UBS, Julia Tensfeld. We're talking today about equity awards. And you did a piece where you actually went out and surveyed people about this topic. What was something that you found really interesting in this new research?
Well, we actually started our research back in 2013. So we've been surveying participants for just about 10 years now. And one of the core pieces of that research has been around an index that we created, the UBS Equity Award Value Index. And that index scores from 0 to 100, 5 different variables. And we look at how individuals view their equity compensation award, whether they think of it as a way to build wealth or a paycheck supplement or a lottery ticket. We also looked at the importance of taking their current job, as well as the importance of staying at their current job. And finally, the last 2 items in that index, we looked at the incorporation of equity compensation into a long-term financial plan, as well as the importance of accumulating wealth or savings. And so that index gives us some great insight into how employees view and value their equity awards.
Yeah, it's interesting. And, we've got a bunch of charts that we're going to be putting up throughout our conversation. And one of them was talking about how education and communication also enhanced the perceived value to employees. And I found that to be really interesting. We're flashing that right now. Maybe you could talk to this a little bit.
Sure, and that's actually a really important point, Anthony. We did find that education, communication, and personalized guidance were really the 3 things that companies can do to influence or reverse the trend, which we found in this past year actually started to reverse. So the employee value index was steadily going up over time, and this last year it did start to decrease. We think that might be somewhat related to the current market situation, economic situation, but we do know, again, from the results of this survey, that education, communication, and personalized guidance can impact that in a very positive way.
Yeah, it's funny. I have a little bit of a leg up on my first job in the industry. Many years ago, I worked on a stock plan services desk for a different firm, a competitor firm. And so I I had extensive training on what it meant, all the different variables of a stock plan service plan through an employer. So for a lot of people out there, they haven't been through an extensive training course like I was to do that job on a desk. So education clearly is something that is very important, and it does make sense that would be a perceived value to employees. And it's, and additionally, it's really good to hear that there are companies out there who do grant billions of dollars of equity awards every year to their employees. So what does this actually mean for the employee?
Well, you're right. It's a really important part of an employee's compensation package. And so that makes it even more important for employees to understand what it means. If employees have as part of their compensation package, they need to understand from their employer what that plan looks like and all of the details. And generally, there's an opportunity for them to provide education and communication materials around the program. Oftentimes, their plan administrator will also provide enhanced education and communication materials. And so looking through those materials to understand not only the plan, but also where their equity award fits within their overall personal financial plan really can help them to understand the ultimate impact on their financial picture.
Right. Yeah, and it was something else that I know that we wanted to make sure we pointed out is that equity awards are an incredibly valuable piece of any employment, but shouldn't be the one and only thing that an individual does to plan for their retirement or money they might need down the road. There are other vehicles, there are 401k plans, et cetera, and there are also individual investments that you could be looking at in a portfolio that you work with a financial professional on. So it's just one part of your financial picture. And so that's a really important piece that I wanted to make sure we pointed out, Julia. And something else, that I saw in your research that was interesting to me, in addition to you could see that value of the guidance, is that there were some comments about people who had concerns like, I could be doing more to maximizing my wealth building, I might make a bad decision. So what do you recommend to those folks who had those concerns? Is it just a matter of connecting with their employer to get that educational material?
Exactly. I think it is a matter of them taking the time to look at those education materials that are offered either through their employer or their plan administrator, and really understanding how the plan works. And then again, taking the time to make sure that their award is part of their overall financial plan. And whether that's through personalized guidance or if they're managing that on their own, it is important to ensure that that's part of their thought process and their overall financial plan.
Right, and it seems from that chart that we have up on the screen that most employees are actually doing that, which is a great thing. And as you said, this research has been going on for a few years, so it's good to see. So as we're wrapping up, Julia, one thing I did want to point out to our viewers, and we could probably flash this chart up there as well, is that a lot of times, depending on the topic, we see huge generational differences. But in this particular case, when talking about the importance of equity awards, generationally, it's pretty similar. So that's a really interesting thing. I just thought it would be fun to point that out. As a Gen Xer myself, in that 75% bracket, it's important to me as well. So last question for you. When you're looking at the companies and talking to different companies who offer equity awards or some type of stock plan service, what were some of the things that you found from companies that maybe they've struggled with or that surprised you that you heard from them over the last year, a couple of years?
Well, actually, going back to that last chart, Anthony, it's encouraging to me to see that there are fewer generational differences, because having been in this industry my entire career, we really started out from a place where we had to do a significant amount of education because really broad-based awards and the ability to participate in these programs for most employees wasn't that common. And so to see that increase in understanding is really valuable. In terms of what employers can do, I think, paying attention to education and communication programs is critically important. And sometimes I think some of our research actually showed that employers think that they provide enough education, but I think what employees are saying is that they're not always aware. And it's kind of like that, repeat things 3 times before that saying that before people will remember it. And so I think it's worthwhile for companies to provide those education programs on a regular basis for their employees.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. And for any employer that's out there, I think it's really important for them to hear exactly what you said. Education is key. Thanks, Julia. And for more information, there's a lot of content on the website from Julia and the team at ubs.com/workplace insights. Plus, all the other content that we talk about here on the show can be found at the other website, which is called ubs.com/views. That's the web address. There's lots of content also on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, plus all of our past UBS Trending episodes are available on demand. And if you have any questions, as we mentioned earlier in the show, make sure to speak with a financial advisor. Until next time, I'm Anthony Pastore. We hope you have a great rest of your day. And remember to keep your eyes on what's trending. We'll see you soon, everybody.